Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, who am I really doing this for? I spent years in my career chasing someone else's version of success, trying to please bosses who are trying to please bosses who are trying to please bosses, and it nearly broke me. So if you've ever felt like you're running on empty, stuck in the cycle of burnout just to meet someone else's expectations, this is the video for you. So today we're going to expose the lie behind the hustle fallacy and explore what it really costs us. When I was stationed in Korea, I really did struggle with this whole idea of burnout at work. As I reflect on the last few years of my career, I don't know about you, I've found myself often in a pattern where I've been burned out in the day job, as they say. There have been plenty of times in my career where I've been tirelessly trying to meet the expectations of my boss, of just trying to do a good job, but really willing to do anything to get there, no matter what. That's more than just about getting the job done. It's getting the job done better than expected, ahead of time, and no matter the cost to me personally or to my team. And that's something that I've learned over time, is that you have to be able to recognize when you're sacrificing your values and what's actually important in the name of just pleasing your boss. And this happens a lot when you're in organizations or when you're encountering leadership that often, without even realizing it, are prioritizing appearances over actual problem solving. And when you get into this pattern, this is just going to leave you drained and you lose yourself in the process. And it begs this really important question, which is, how often do you find yourself burning the candle at both ends to meet your boss's expectations, regardless of the cost to you and the cost to your team, and maybe the cost to the mission itself? Which takes us to an important thing I mentioned in the first part. And so for part two, we're talking about the importance of defining your own values and priorities, because this matters. Because when you don't define your own values, someone else is going to define them for you. I'm guessing that if you're like me, there have been plenty of times in your life where you've just felt lost. I know there's so many people out there that are working in jobs they hate, for people that you don't respect, maybe in a system that just doesn't align with your values, your priorities, your principles. And we don't necessarily always have language to think about this, but it's important that we're clear when we define it. Because when you don't define it, this is the core problem that you're going to face. You end up chasing success, whatever that means, but it's a success that isn't your own. It's disconnected from what matters to you. How many of us are pursuing a life that's prescribed for us, that's handed to us, rather than taking the time to deliberately choose whether or not that life reflects our own priorities? Which is why you actually have to take the time to specifically write them down. Not just generally think about your priorities. Actually take the time to evaluate what you stand for and what matters to you personally, because that's how you can begin to make a change. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in this constant cycle of just living up to the priorities and values of everybody around you without clearly defining your own. You have to ask yourself the tough questions, what do I want out of life? What am I passionate about? What are the values that guard me regardless of what other people's expectations for me are? What are the things that I'm uniquely good at, that I'm meant to do on this earth? And I have a resource that I made to help you answer exactly these questions. We'll talk about it here in a second, but I want to get to part three. So part three is about setting the boundaries to protect your values. So if you've defined them, now you have to protect them, and that's why boundaries are so crucial. They aren't just about you arbitrarily saying no all the time, no matter to anything that's inconvenient to you. No, healthy boundaries are about actually protecting those things that are important to you. So when you don't set boundaries, what you're doing is allowing other people's priorities to overshadow your own. And this leads to burnout, it leads to resentment. And these are things that I've struggled with for years. That's why I'm so passionate about it. That bitterness, that feeling of resentment, that feeling that is often in areas of your life where you're overwhelmed, you're overcommitted, you're sacrificing what's important to you, and you probably haven't even noticed it yet. So you have to begin by starting small, whether it's sticking to limited work hours, saying no to extra responsibilities, or volunteering in ways that are, just to impress someone, in things that you're not passionate about or not good at. It might just be carving out that time, that personal time, for the things that matter to you most. The big idea here is that if you're not guarding your own time, your own energy, no one else is going to do it for you. And that's why you have to set boundaries. Which takes us to number 4. I've been a productivity nerd for a long time. And I've always known this concept in my head, but it's really taken a while to actually like make it through to my heart, to a thing that I actually believe enough to implement. And that is understanding the hustle fallacy. The hustle fallacy is a lie. And it's a lie that just when I reflect on my own behavior at work, I lived according to this lie for many years. The whole idea of the hustle fallacy is that it's about the best way to succeed in life, right? Especially professionally, is just to work harder and work longer. More hours, more time, more effort, just brute force. What happens is you basically work yourself to the point of exhaustion, and this doesn't make you more successful. In fact, it makes you less so if that work is not aligned with your values and priorities. There's concrete evidence, there's studies that like over time, especially if you work in any job that requires brain power at all, if you're an analyst of any kind, you do creative work of any kind, like there's a diminishing point of returns for the longer hours that you work, the less the quality of that work will be. And the more time it will take to recover so that you can once again get back and do your best work. So that's where we have to get practical. You have to define success on your own terms. This gets back to that whole values thing. Like your boss may be impressed and may like the fact that you stay really late for work every day of the week. You get a project across the finish line on time or early with zero help, even though 3 other people on the team were fired. Like these are things that you could do, and your boss would be happy. You might get some recognition, and you might even feel good if you're getting that recognition. But that isn't success. But it's the success that you'll fall into if you're just going by default, and that is the lie of the hustle fallacy. So this is my invitation to you. In the first link in the description below, you're gonna see my newsletter where I send out a weekly email called Riley's Friday Focus. And when you sign up, the first thing I'm gonna send to you, my own in-depth guide on how to define and defend your own values, so that all this productivity advice that I talk about that we see on YouTube, right? I don't know how many Ali Abdaal videos you've watched or Matt D'Avella videos. I've been there. I've been that nerd for many years, and that's why I made the Find Your Focus guide, and it's for free. It's right there, first link in the description below. The second link, and this is a little bit more hardcore, it's about a workshop that I'm developing right now. This is for you if you're ready to get serious. If you're sick of feeling burned out or bored, stuck, ready to make a change. We're getting towards the end of the year. 2025 is coming up. In the fourth quarter, I already like to start thinking about like setting my goals for the next year. So that's why I'm working right now on a workshop, and it's a really nerdy workshop. If you know me from my time, my many years as a Star Wars podcaster, I had to call it this. It's called Find Your Death Star. And it's basically all about identifying your passions and like a process for setting one big goal for the year. The main themes of this workshop are getting clarity on what matters to you, getting like a step-by-step guide on this kind of smarter goal process, something I've talked about on the channel here, and using that to find that one big goal for the year, your Death Star, as I'm calling it. So yeah, you know what to do. This has been a kind of self-reflective video, but that's gonna wrap this one up. Until next time, may the force be with you. Peace out.